You think you've ever?
Well, I'm acutely aware, Charlamagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when Joe Biden insulted you by saying you ain't really black, we don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or vote for Donald Trump. It seems to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part. How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you you got to think a certain kind of way? I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that.
I'm not gonna say it upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me. You know what I mean? I don't tend to get upset over things like that. But what I did say,
well, you just not talk about a nigga wake-up call, and it seemed to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part to have a white guy come in here who also said, by the way, about Mitt Romney. Because he didn't want to put more regulations on Wall Street, going to put y'all back in chains. And Joe Biden had lied for decades about his civil rights record, claiming that he desegregated movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware, when he didn't do any of that. He lied and said that he tried to visit Nelson Mandela during apartheid South Africa. He did not. And he came in here and told you aren't even black and let you think a certain kind of way. It seemed to me that should have been a nigga wake-up call for you, but it wasn't, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, no, for the record, I'm not a Democrat hardcore.
I didn't say you were.
Yeah, I think both.
I don't know what you are. I never even asked you about your party affiliation. Yeah, I'm just saying, but you are black. And to have a white guy come in here and tell you have to think a certain kind of way, otherwise you, quote, ain't black? Wow.
How should I have replied to him, you think?
What I just now said, how dare you insult me and tell me I think as a human being, let alone as a black person? I don't tell you how to think, Joe Biden. How dare you come in here and tell me how I should think? I'm going to vote for Donald Trump if I want to vote for Donald Trump. And if I want to vote for Donald Trump, it does not make me not black. 20% of black people, black men, as I said, voted for Donald Trump in 2020. Are they not black now? So only 80% of black men walking around are really black, 20% are not, because they voted for Donald Trump? How insulting is that? How condescending is that?
I mean, you're probably right, but I didn't think it in that way.
Well, I did.
As I said to him in that moment, it's just about me wanting something for my people, and I want to know what is he going to do for my people, and not only for my people now, how are you going to atone for the things you've done to my people?
Right. Right, and this is a guy, Joe Biden, who, when he first got into the Senate, hung out with segregationists, talked about how well he got along with them, talked about how he didn't want integration because of the jungle. This guy has made all sorts of insulting things to black people, and his policies right now are hurting black people. Inflation hurts the people at the bottom more than anything else. Letting a bunch of illegal aliens into the border are hurting black people more than anybody else, as I said earlier. He's opposed school choice when he has his own kids in private school, and we lost a year, almost 2 years of in-school education in California because of COVID that he supported. I mean, this guy has done monstrous things to black people, and then for him to come in here and tell you how you ought to think as a black person, that blew my mind.
As a person objectively who doesn't care about either party, listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact
I'm figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
What's up, y'all? I hope y'all having a good night. So, Larry Elder went on a Breakfast Club, and let's keep it a $1.50. He basically grilled Charlamagne, and he grilled everybody on the Breakfast Club. Okay, and everybody has been talking about it, so I want to give my 2 cents on it, right? And before this, I never really knew that much about Larry Elder. I think he's running for Republican candidate. Let me double check it before I make this statement. 1 second. 1 second, y'all. Okay, so yes, he is a GOP candidate for 2024, which later, after I do this video and a couple of other videos, I will be tuning into the GOP debate, just because I'm gonna have Travis come up and talk about it. But let's get into this, right? So, one of the main points of the show, right? Charlamagne the guy asked Larry Elder, he was like, have you ever heard of a Negro wake-up call? And if you don't know what a Negro wake-up call is, a Negro wake-up call is when a person, a black person that panders to white society and buck dance for white society ends up getting a wake-up call to let him know, like, hey, no matter what you do, no matter how much pandering you do, no matter how much buck dancing you do, you're still a nigga to us. So basically just let them know, hey, just because you do all that pandering, just because you do all that cooning, just because you doing all that buck dancing, don't mean you one of us. And they make that very clear. So that's what you would call a Negro wake-up call, if you don't know. And basically, Larry, he was like, yeah, I know I'm black. And the video is in the is gonna be in the preview before I start this video. But he was like, yeah, I know I'm black, but what about you? When Joe Biden came over here and said you ain't black if you don't vote for me, you ain't had nothing to say then. And I'm just paraphrasing what Larry said. And I'm gonna keep it $1.50. When it comes to that statement, I most definitely agree with Larry Elder. When Joe Biden came on here and was like, you don't vote for me if you ain't black, Charlamagne ain't had anything to say. When Joe Biden was on here, was like, is it either you gonna either vote for me or Donald Trump? And if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black. Like, Charlamagne should have most definitely checked him then. And Charlamagne, he had the right intent when asking, when interviewing Joe Biden, because he was asking and saying, hey, what are you gonna do specifically for black people? But when Joe Biden said that, he should have checked Joe Biden. Like, what you mean? Like, what you mean we ain't black if we not voting for you? What specifically have you even done for us? You're not gonna use this boogeyman Donald Trump thing to scare us into voting for you. How are we not black if we don't vote for you? If you actually made laws that actually harmed us. You endorsed laws that harmed us. The 1994 crime bill. Oh yeah, he was in on the crack cocaine, right? With the cocaine and crack sentencing, right? They made it to where basically you get the same sentence for 5 grams of crack as you did for 500 grams of cocaine. And Joe Biden was in on that law as well. Grams of crack, that's a mandatory 5 years. 500 grams of cocaine, that's a mandatory 5 years. And you know why they did that? You know why that was done? Because who was the main people selling crack? Black people. Who was the main users of it? Black people. What neighborhoods did it hit the most? Black people. Now, let's talk about cocaine. Who was the users of cocaine? Mainly rich white men. Mainly rich white men use cocaine. who was the users, who sold cocaine. I mean, them big time drug lords was the ones that was pushing the cocaine. They wasn't touching crack like that. So they did that specifically to target the black community. And not only that, you know, they don't call him Jim Crow Joe for no reason. Jim Crow Joe Biden, he was for segregation, which, me personally, I don't see no problem with segregation, because actually black people had the most wealth. But like Dr. Claude Anderson said, right? Like Dr. Claude Anderson said, we should have that option to aggregate. We should still have our communities where we have our own wealth, but we should have the option to completely segregate or assimilate into society like every other nationality or group does in the United States. Right? But yeah. And then another thing, why a lot of people push to end segregation, why a lot of black people did do that, because a lot of black people, they were paying taxes in cities where they couldn't even go to certain areas in. They couldn't even go to the park in the same city that they was paying taxes for. They couldn't even go to certain restaurants in certain cities that they was paying taxes for. They couldn't go certain places. They couldn't go to certain monuments. They couldn't use certain water fountains. They was paying taxes. They was like, hey man, this ain't fair, bro. So that's why a lot of our people did push for segregation. And I kind of want to break this down. I want to break this down real well. I'm not going to be here super long, but I want to make sure I break this down, right? So yeah, Jim Crow, man, he passed policies that harm black people. He's still actually doing it. He hasn't done anything for the black community. And basically all they did was use that boogeyman Trump thing. And to me, Joe Biden is just as racist as Trump. To be honest, he don't even hide it. He be blatantly disrespecting black people. Nobody just don't be saying anything to him. I have a strong dislike for Joe Biden, to be honest. We're on the brink of World War III. Ever since he's been in office, the country is just going to hell in a handbasket. But, I mean, that's bigger than the president itself, I will say that. This is orchestrated like this. This is meant to be like this. This is orchestrated. You know, so whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But yeah, I agree with Larry Elder. You know, Joe Biden is blatantly disrespected black people on the Breakfast Club, and Charlamagne didn't check him at all. And you know why I think he didn't check him? It was only so much that Charlamagne could ask. Because Charlamagne was pressing him, but when he said that, he most definitely should have checked him with that, man. I most definitely should have checked him. Should have got into Joe Biden. Like, hold up, man, who you think you talking to? But we was talking about this, and we said everybody, and I feel like that whoever manages the Breakfast Club was like, hey, It's only so much you can do, and it's only so much you can ask in regards to Joe Biden. And Charlamagne was already pressing the issue. So when he said that, he did it right when they was about to leave or get off. And Charlamagne didn't check him like he was supposed to, because they handled it. It was like, nah, it's only so much you can say. It's only so much you can do. So, and the fact that the presidential candidate Joe Biden was on the Breakfast Club, you know, they didn't want to go too hard, and that was their sellout price. That's what I see it is. But he most definitely should have checked Joe Biden on that, man. That was mad disrespectful. I was heated about that. And a lot of black people was actually condoning that. And for the black people that's condoning that, if Trump would have did that same thing, it would have been an issue. Y'all would have said he's racist. But because Joe Biden do it, then it's not no issue. And then he gonna smile while he doing it. He know what he doing, man. He knew what he was doing. But let's get to this Larry Elder dude, right? He is running for the 2024 presidential election. And the thing with Larry Elder is, yes, a lot of stuff that he was saying was facts. But he's the type that do not want to acknowledge the role that white supremacy played in it. Okay, so one of the things, I'm just gonna talk about a couple points that he stated, right? One of the points he stated was, hey, black people, they make up 13% of the population, but they overwhelm the prisons overwhelmingly. Which, first of all, I don't believe that we only make up 13% of the population. I think that's a lie. And then second of all, he didn't want to state the fact that you are more likely to get targeted for the same crimes that white people commit, and we receive way harsher sentences for the same crimes that white people commit. So he failed to mention that. Like I said, that's similar to the whole cocaine crack thing, right? 5 years for 5 grams of crack. 5 years for 500 grams of cocaine. So that's a 100 to 1 ratio. Or 1 to 100 ratio, however you want to say it. So if you a big time drug dealer and you moving big, you moving kilos, think about how much time you gonna get for crack compared to just moving kilos of cocaine. Think about that. All right, let's talk about another thing, right? He said, there's no fathers in the home. That's why. So let's talk about this. Within the past 10 years, if you take a look, the percentage of fathers not in the home for black people decreased compared to whites and Hispanic increasing. You don't want to talk about that though, right? Another thing. So it was a number of things that got us to this point to where black people is drastically drastically make up the number of fatherless homes, right? Okay, first thing, right? Of course, yes, we did have the welfare incentive that was given to the mothers, to where Uncle Sam, the government said, "Hey, listen, we'll give you all these benefits. We'll give you a place to stay. We'll give you all these incentives. All these incentives. To would I go? Calabrini Green. All these major housing projects, right? Back in the 60s and the 70s. That did make fatherless homes rise drastically, because the government was incentivizing our women to take these benefits. They said, hey, you can take these benefits, but you can't have the mothers in the home. I mean, you can't have the fathers in the home. Fathers can't be home in the home at all. So that basically incentivized our women to have more kids, but leave the fathers out the home, because they get benefited for it. They get incentivized for it. So that was one of the first tricks to break up the family unit. And that is white supremacy. Now, don't get me wrong, the women most definitely had a part to play in it, for participating and laying in bed with them. And I heard somebody say the realest thing, right? I heard somebody say the realest thing. They said, okay, Uncle Sam gave these women all these benefits, but in return, they said, we're going to take your kids. We're going to take your sons and mass incarcerate them. So this started to break off in the 60s and the 70s, right? Then, say late 69, right? You already had President Nixon saying this. He was like, hey, and I'm paraphrasing, but I will put the quotes in the video just so you can see. I'm just not blabbering. I'm just not talking outside of my neck, right? But President Nixon said, hey, we don't like these anti-war hippies. We don't like black people. So what we'll do is we'll use marijuana to target the hippies, and we'll use heroin to target the black people. Now this was back in the late 60s, right? Before the crack epidemic popped off. So say we get to the 80s, right? We get to the 80s. Bam! Crack epidemic popped off. They're trying to fund this war in Nicaragua. So what they do, they flood the black communities with crack cocaine to fund this war. A lot of the drug lords was dealing with CIA agents. Ray Ricky Ross. But a lot of these drug lords was dealing with CIA agents. And they gave them the crack cocaine. And the thing is, when you in a impoverished society, you already don't have the father in the home. don't have much resources, what's the next move? Like, hey, why get a job if they down here, they making thousands a week, probably thousands in a day. I done heard crazy numbers like 100,000 a day and stuff like that. You know, you want to be a baller like them. You young black dudes seeing this, you coming from nothing. Like, all right, I'm gonna get in on this. Y'all booming for some years. And bam, want drugs. What did President Nixon say? Hey, we're going to demonize them day and night. What they do? Doing the war on drugs. Cops. All cop show was black people getting arrested, black dysfunction, black drug dealers on the news all day and night. They pushing this war on drugs. They pushing it real heavy. And then bam, what's the next step? They start doing RICOs and they start indicting all these drug dealers. And what's next? The community is tired of it. Like, man, we tired of this. We tired of the violence. And at the same time, gangster rap popped off as well. So you gotta realize that. So late 80s, early 90s, gangster rap popped off. So you got the music playing. And bam, 1994 crime bill. Bam, they hit you with the 100 to 1 sentencing ratio between crack and cocaine to target the black people. Bam, 3 strikes, mass incarceration. So I'm gonna show you when, and like I said, I'm gonna pull this up. Let me go back and take a look at this. So black fathers being out the home was in its peak in the 1990s, right? And then it went down from then. It went down like 0.1% to 51.1%. Then it went down. So it was at its peak in the 1990s and the 2000s. And it went down by 3% almost in the 2010s. So in the 90s and the 2000s, that was that mass incarceration era. So yeah, Arietta, he had some valid points, and because Larry Elder grilled him on this interview, the white wing, white supremacists definitely running with this, and they having a field day with it. I'm not gonna even lie, they are having a field day with this. Because I mean, Larry Elder grilled them, bro. I'm not gonna even lie. Like, they were just emotional the whole interview. They were trying to talk over him. And if you are having a debate, that's not how you do it, right? You give the other person time to talk. And instead of doing that, they should have been asking him questions like, okay, so since you're running for the 2024 presidential election, what are you going to do to solve this issue? Since you're saying the fathers are out of the home, okay, so what are you going to do to solve this issue? How are you going to help the black community overcome this if this is a genuine concern for you? And on top of that, they could have brought up all them points that I brought up as well. I mean, all they really had to do was just Google this stuff. I mean, but they're not no debaters. They're radio show hosts. And they should have, I mean, Larry Elder been, what I heard, he's been doing this for a minute. So they should have came more prepared if they really wanted to go there with it. But Larry Elder grilled them, and people are having a field day with it. I mean, he was right about that Joe Biden thing. He was like, man, how you gonna let some white man come over here and just disrespect you like that and not say nothing to him? Just straight up said, y'all ain't black to y'all face if you don't vote for me. Why you ain't say nothing to him? So I'm gonna keep it $1.50, man. Larry Elder grilled them. I don't agree with everything Larry Elder say. And he's right about a lot of things, like I said, but he's coming from it from a complete right-wing standpoint. Like I said, he doesn't want to acknowledge the white supremacy part of it, which is cool. We have people like that. We have your people like that. So yeah, they most definitely got grilled by Larry Elder. This most definitely gonna be talked about for a while, but yeah, I'm about to tune into this GOP debate, see what's going on, and we're gonna talk about that this Friday as well, and I got a few other videos coming as well. But man, thank y'all, thank you all the new followers, man. Y'all continue to run it up, man. Let's get it. Got some more good content coming in. If you like the content, hey, give it a like and subscribe. If not, give it a dislike for the algorithm. No issue. Everybody is not going to agree with what I say, and I don't expect you to. Even if you follow some of my content, I don't expect you to agree with everything I say. Listen, we are grown adults. We all have different opinions. We all have our different views about things. But just because we have our different views about things doesn't mean, you can't take, what you feel is useful for you and just leave the rest if you want to. Hey, it is what it is. But man, y'all have a good night. Peace.